If you have Achilles tendinopathy, you don't need to rest forever. I'll show you how. If your Achilles pain stays between 0 to 3 out of 10 pain during the run and it doesn't spike the next morning, you're safe to keep running. That's called the green zone, and that's your first green light return. Most runners have no idea that they can run with some pain. In fact, I encourage people to run even if they have a little bit of pain. You have to maintain your fitness. There's no way around this, right? You don't need to be pain-free to start. You just need a smart progression, which is what I'm going to walk you through today. By the end of this video, you'll know the exact step-by-step run-walk progression I use for my clients, so you can start running again without blowing up your Achilles. Let me tell you a little bit about Chad. Chad had a run in almost 10 years and had been dealing with mid-portion Achilles tendinopathy. Every time he tried to go back to running after a period of rest and stretching and traditional physical therapy, his Achilles would flare up so badly that he'd been limping for days. And from there, he went on another rest, stretch, physical therapy course, often for a couple of years before trying again. He assumed that he was done as a runner, but his body wasn't really the problem. The Achilles wasn't even the problem. It was his progression. He never really understood how to get out of that cycle. The moment that he joined Reform's running system and went through the green light system, or the green light protocol as I call it, he understood what he needed to do. And he followed the exact run-walk progression that I'm going to show you today. He went from I'll never be able to run again to running consistently for the first time in a decade, even being a busy public school teacher. So you can do the same thing even if you're busy and have other things going on in your life. Here's the thing though, the reason why Chad flared up in the first place after several cycles of resting, stretching, and physical therapy is because he was trying to get back into marathon training. He assumed that he could start training for a marathon again. And that's the mistake that many runners make. They return too fat, too soon, too often, and the Achilles just can't handle that load right away, especially if it's not used to running for however long you've been not running. The goal is to expose the Achilles to the point where it can tolerate running again and then get into training, which is why it takes time. And I'm always preaching consistency and patience with the Achilles we have. The first ones are just mechanical exposure. So we're reintroducing impact, we're retraining your tendons memory, and we're showing your brain that running is safe again. So the nerves aren't so sensitive that causes that massive flare-up. Here's how you can do this. Start with stage 1, which is a 4-minute walk followed by a 1-minute run. And you're going to do this 3 to 5 times during the session. And you're going to add this to your calendar 3 days per week. It's taking you about a week because I advise having a day off after each one to allow the brain and the nervous system to adapt. So this is why we're going to go slow here. And I know it can be frustrating not to run, but the slowness, the patience part of the progression is key. Make sure you progress properly. If you have no pain or minimal pain on a scale of 10, it should be between 0 and 3 right after the run and within 24 hours after a run. And you've done stage 1 for a week, then you can move on to stage 2. So you're going to do a 3-minute walk and a 2-minute run for 3 to 5 rounds. And again, you're going to do this 3 times a week. And then if your pain is still within 0 and 3 out of 10, then you can move on to stage 3, where it's a 2-minute walk and a 3-minute run for 3 to 5 rounds. You're going to do this for 3 times a week still. And then stage 4 is a 1-minute walk followed by a 4-minute run 3 to 5 times, or 3 to 5 rounds, and this alone will help reduce 90% of the flare-up because you're adapting our Achilles slowly to the mechanical load, the high impact forces that you experience when you run. Keep in mind that the Achilles experiences an 8 to 12 times increase in load every time you take a step during a running activity. So which is why we want to go really slow to help adapt the tendon. Now you might be wondering, well, what should I do after each one? How do I know that I've done well and when I should dial it back? This is where the green light runners protocol comes in. This is going to act as your daily decision tool in deciding whether it's okay to run the day after or do some other activity. So if your pain is on a scale of 10, 0 to 10, if it's 0 to 3, you're in the green zone, which means that you're loading the tendon safely and you can keep going. Any residual pain is simply the body's alarm system being a tad bit sensitive. Monitor this right after the activity, the session, then monitor again 2 hours after, and then 24 hours. If you have to write it down and keep a log of it, I would encourage you to do that. If it stays steady, then you're in a good place. Now, if you're in 0 to 3 pain or spikes to 5 out of 10 pain the next day, then you've hit the yellow zone. The yellow zone is when pain might be between 4 to 7 out of 10. And if you're in this zone, my advice is to monitor your activity, make sure that it doesn't get worse, or consider cross-training if it's a one-walk day. Now, what happens if the pain spikes to the red zone, which is 7 plus out of 10? This is where I'll advise my runners to shut it down for the day, or if they can tolerate it, do some form of cross-training like cycling and swimming. This system is how tendon rehab research is applied in real life. We know that from studies that pain doesn't always mean damage. Pain is simply your body's alarm system, and if you've had pain for months and months or even years and years, your pain is simply going to be more sensitive. It doesn't take much to trigger things. I like this system because it keeps runners moving without tipping into flare-ups. In fact, I can't remember a time when a single client has ever tipped his 7 plus pain situation. Typically, what I see happen is, we go so slow that we never get into flare-up territory. And if the pain does spike, they know to tell me. And when they tell me, they know that they're going to get a plan that's going to help them stay active, whether it's through cross-training or activity like swimming, or reduce duration, intensity, and frequency of the run. But it shows that the system works. You just gotta trust it. Once you've completed all 4 stages of the green zone run-walk progression, then you can start doing longer jogs, like a 10-minute run followed by a 1-minute walk break. You can do that 2 or 3 rounds, just tolerate it, for 3 sessions per week. And then you can move on to a 15-minute run with a 1-minute walk and do that 2 times, so you're not overloading your Achilles in a single session. I like to keep it, these sessions within a half hour long. And then if you're able to do a 30-minute continuous jog, that's the point where I'm going to clear you to start running and then transitioning to a training phase. Okay, now when you're clear to do your training phase, you can increase that duration by 10% per week. And this is supported by research in the British Journal of Sports Medicine, showing that runners who have increased their running distance or duration by 10% in a single session is more likely to get injured. It's a huge factor, right? And we want to make sure we don't overload the Achilles tendon so much in a single session. That's why I recommend 10% per week. Alright, now you've learned how to follow the run-walk progression exactly, how to stay in the green zone, how to build the 30 minutes of continuous running, and then increase your weekly load by 10%. This is how runners like Chad and Becky and TJ and hundreds of others have returned to running even after years of stopping, restarting, and dealing with nagging Achilles pain. And if you want the complete breakdown of how runners fix Achilles pain and return to confidence, I put together a short free training that walks you through the system step by step. I call it the Force Running System, and you can view it in full by clicking on the link below in the comments or in the description. And when you are finished with that, I encourage you to check out this video. You don't need to do 180 heel raises, and this is what you do instead. Just click on the box here and check it out.